Hello all, I hope you're doing well. We are continuing with our weekly portion review, and this week we are in the portion of Korach. This is the famous portion that talks about the dramatic rebellion, right? Korach, the Levite, challenges Moses and Aaron with his very bold claim, right? He says in Hebrew, Ki kol ha'edah kulam kadoshim ubetocham Hashem, right? Which is the translation would be that the entire assembly, right? All of them are holy, and Hashem, God, is among them, right? So at first a glance, Korach's words seem noble, right? Doesn't Judaism actually teach that every Jew has a holy soul, and this is what we believe? So where is Korach actually going wrong over here? Now, Korach wasn't entirely wrong, right? His failure really lays in confusing the potential with actualization. So it is true that there's a deep truth in the idea that the entire nation possesses an inherent kedusha, sanctity, right? The soul of the Klal Yisrael, the collective Jewish people, is described in Song of Songs, right? Where he says that you are entirely beautiful, my beloved. There's no flaw in you, right? Kulach yafa ra'ayati umum ein bach. But this truth is not automatically manifest in each individual. Right, the task of every Jew is to internalize the holiness of the collective through personal growth, mitzvot, the commandments, and refinement of one's character. Right, Korach's sin was the spiritual impatience that he had, mistaking the ideal for the real. And he assumed that because the nation carries this holy potential, the journey was actually complete. But in reality, the path from potential to fulfillment really demands time, humility, and a personal effort, right? This mistake is not really unique to Korach, though. That if we look throughout history, there's been spiritual movements and universalist ideologies that really we've seen them proclaim to all these people that they're already enlightened and or they're sanctified already, even when we see in reality this only leaded to moral confusion or people being even more barbaric, right? But when it leads to, when it leads leaders to tell nations that they are already holy without requiring inner transformation, right? It leaves them really stagnant, or it can even regress them. And the Jewish role is not to erase distinctions between peoples, but it's to illuminate really a path of gradual elevation, first within ourselves, then ultimately for the whole world, right? And this process is demanding, but it honors reality, though. True progress requires recognizing the different stages of development in the soul of humans, of humanity, right? The Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, in Ethics of Our Fathers, teaches that we talk about this often, how any arguments that's for the sake of heaven will ultimately endure. Now, this seems counterintuitive, right? Shouldn't we seek to eliminate all argument? Why would we want the dispute to endure? And the answer is that this kind of machloket, this kind of argument, for heaven's sake, actually reflects different facets of the divine truth, right? Even when one of you becomes the halakha, the actual, we decide on one official law, right? The opposing opinion still holds a value. And in times of crisis, the minority opinion may even be relied upon. And in fact, the disciples of the famous rabbi, the Ari, right, that taught that in the future, the halakha, right, will ultimately go according to the school of Beit Shammai, right? Not like how today the majority goes according to the school of Beit Hillel. And by doing that, we see that even every sincere voice of Torah is eternal. And as we often talk about that these and those are the words of the living God, right? Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chaim. And our rabbis taught that only when there are these and those, right, is it the word of the living God. When there is no these and those, it becomes the word of a dead God, when it's just stagnant. And still, nevertheless, every argument is dangerous, right? Even holy disagreements pass through these moments where there's actually ego and there's pride and there's personal gain there's personal gain, and that gets added into the equation. And the real test of a machloket, of a disagreement, is not how it begins, right? But in whether we remain vigilant throughout the argument. Am I still arguing for truth, or am I defending my status? Right? This is perhaps the deepest lesson of Parashat Korach, of our portion, that even truths must be approached humbly. Even arguments must be purified constantly. And even holiness must be earned and not really assumed. Korach's tragedy lies not in his aspiration, but in his shortcut. Right? He saw the truth, but not in its full context. He reached for this crown before earning even the robe that he should be wearing. And this is what Moses tells him, Rav Lecha. Says, slow your roll, Korach. If only he would have listened. And we too need to realize that now, specifically speaking in Israel, but this is true in many nations now around us, when there's a lot of political divide, we have to come and understand that we need to be doing it for heaven's sake. And we're allowed to, of course, argue, but we should be sensing and searching for this unity. Shabbat Shalom.